The story begins with a group of space travelers marveling at a breathtaking celestial event called the Hermagon Ultra. As they admire the intricate dance of cosmic dust, their tour guide Norton monitors the control panel, narrating the phenomenon's details. However, the serene moment shifts when the luminous clouds suddenly darken, and Norton's system alerts him to an increase in cloud density, causing visibility to drop significantly. To maintain the awe of his passengers, Norton tweaks the display by applying a color enhancement filter. The intensified hues prompt gasps of astonishment from the group. Closing his commentary, Norton remarks that the Hermagon Aurora's majestic beauty is enough to rekindle anyone's faith in the divine. After the episode, the passengers disembark from the sightseeing vessel, Dreamweaver 9. Norton heads to the office to wrap up for the day, handing over the reports and customer surveys to his colleague Andrews. Among the feedback, one guest has noted an issue with the sound quality. Norton points out that Andrews needs to repair the faulty speaker, but Andrews responds with a dismissive gesture, flipping him off. Norton then catches faint moaning sounds coming from Andrews' computer. Embarrassed, Andrews quickly shuts the video he was secretly watching. Shifting the subject, Andrews begins outlining their scheduled tours for the upcoming week, but Norton, eager to get home to his girlfriend Barbara, decides to leave. As Norton prepares to leave, Andrews asks if his transfer to Primo Central has been finalized, mentioning that Barbara seems intent on living the high life. Norton admits the transfer hasn't been approved yet, but expresses optimism about it. Their conversation is interrupted by a knock at the door. Andrews points out that the office is closed, but the knocking continues insistently. Since he's already on his way out, Norton decides to see who it is. When he opens the door, he's startled to find an elderly woman standing there. Her presence triggers a fleeting vision of a bicycle in Norton's mind. Shaking it off, he explains to the woman that they are no longer open. An android named RB29 speaks up, explaining that its owner, Irma Gordon, is deaf. Irma demands to be taken on a tour, but Norton, caught off guard, asks the android to inform her that she'll need to come back next week. When RB29 remains silent, Norton heads to the office to grab a pamphlet listing their available destinations. However, Irma firmly insists that she wants to visit Earth. Hearing this, Andrews interjects, calling the request absurd since Earth no longer exists. RB29, undeterred, clarifies that Irma is 324 years old and piloted her craft all the way from Riga 2 to make this request, urging them to accommodate her. The android further reveals that Irma is offering payment of 2 kilopositives in cash, immediately piquing the men's interest. Andrews begins researching Earth's history, noting it was destroyed long ago by a solar flare. Searching for alternatives, he identifies M43, a planet in another solar system with a single moon that somewhat resembles Earth. Norton objects, pointing out that M43 is a lifeless, oxygen-deprived rock, but Andrews counters that Irma only wants to see the planet, not land on it. Norton refuses to deceive Irma, but Andrews argues that they'd simply be fulfilling her request. Andrews suggests canceling all their scheduled tours for the following week, under the pretense of a ship malfunction, allowing them to provide Irma with an exclusive private tour. He proposes keeping the arrangement off the record so they can split the 2 kilopositives between themselves, earning what amounts to 5 years' salary in just 1 week. Despite the tempting offer, Norton declines, worried it could jeopardize his transfer to Primo Central. As Norton begins to leave, his girlfriend Barbara calls, urging him to check his vidmail. He opens the message to find a recording from Linus Primo, informing him that his transfer application has been denied. Frustrated, Barbara complains about their situation, reminding him they've been stuck on the planet for 4 years when they originally planned to leave after 2. With Norton's transfer rejected yet again, she bitterly concludes they'll be staying much longer. Norton tries to reassure her, promising to resolve the issue, but Barbara insists that Primo Central doesn't care about him and that he'll never change their minds. Her disappointment, combined with the rejection, weighs heavily on Norton, ultimately leading him to agree to Andrews' scheme. The next day, aboard the Dreamweaver 9, they prepare to take Irma on a journey to Alpha Centauri, where they intend to pass off a distant planet as the long-lost Earth. As Norton checks the control panel, he notices their actual destination is M43. While serving Irma her complimentary drink, she begins reminiscing about her grandmother, Laura. Irma fondly recalls how Laura would talk about her life on Earth, describing a cabin near Elk River Falls. Laura and her husband, Bill, used to swim there, with Laura calling it the most joyful experience of her life. Inspired by these stories, Irma dreams of visiting that exact place and swimming in its waters, making it the one destination she longs to see. Norton, uneasy, asks asks RB-29 to explain to Irma that such a trip isn't possible. However, Irma continues to talk about how much Earth has changed over the centuries. Despite this, she holds on to the belief that Elk River Falls is a place untouched by time. Later, as Irma falls asleep in the lobby, RB-29 begins questioning the unusual circumstances of the trip. It points out the lack of additional crew members and the absence of any official documentation before departure. Norton brushes off the concerns, insisting they are simply giving Irma what she wants. RB-29, however, presses further, revealing that Irma suffers from a serious heart condition and has only 2 months left to live. This, the android emphasizes, is her final journey. Norton feels a pang of guilt but conceals it, leaving without addressing his unease. The following evening, he brings Irma her drink in her cabin. Hoping to strike up a conversation, Irma uses a communication device to translate their dialogue. She begins by asking about Norton, prompting him to share that he was born on Primo 76, but dreams of one day moving to Primo Central with his girlfriend Barbara. When Irma learns they've been together for 5 years, she curiously asks why they haven't married yet. Norton replies that he plans to, but he's waiting for the right moment. Irma probes further, asking if he truly loves Barbara. Norton quickly affirms that he does, but his hesitation doesn't go unnoticed. Feeling cornered, he jokes that it feels like he's being interrogated in court, to which Irma teasingly remarks that he sounds unsure. Reflecting on her words, Norton admits that while he loves Barbara, they often want different things. Observing his conflicted expression, Irma guesses that Barbara is determined to reach Primo Central, while Norton's desires lie elsewhere. This conversation stirs another vivid vision for Norton, this time of riding a bicycle alongside someone, but he forces himself out of the memory and hastily excuses himself, leaving the cabin. Later that night, Andrews sets the ship on autopilot and falls asleep in the cockpit, oblivious to RB-29 lurking just outside. The android discreetly hacks into the system, unlocking the cockpit and confirming their true destination, M43. Realizing they've been deceived, RB-29's eyes glow red with anger. The next day, as the ship approaches M43's solar system, Irma's face lights up with joy. Meanwhile, Norton lounges in the cockpit, asking Andrews what he plans to do with his share of the money. Andrews considers retiring early and taking a tour to experience life as a passenger for a change. Turning the conversation to Norton, Andrews suggests he use the money to marry Barbara and finally move to Primo Central, fulfilling his longtime dream. When Norton remains silent, Andrews reassures him that he deserves it. Breaking the silence, Norton suggests telling Irma the truth, his guilt over deceiving her starting to weigh heavily. He admits that he's ripping her off for the sake of moving somewhere he doesn't even truly want to be. Andrews brushes it off, arguing that they aren't conning her. They're creating her dream, much like artists do. Norton disagrees, pointing out that what they're doing is more like running a con. Andrews defends their work, claiming that by enhancing celestial phenomena, they're giving tourists a piece of the wonder they're yearning for. Norton counters, arguing that instead of selling prepackaged happiness, they could provide something genuine and meaningful. Before Andrews can respond, an alarm blares from Irma's cabin. Norton immediately gets up to check on her, but Andrews stops him, warning him not to say anything about the truth. When Norton enters Irma's cabin, he finds her struggling to fasten her robe while RB-29 fumbles with the old-fashioned hook and eye clasp. Smiling at the quaint garment, Norton helps her, and Irma explains that it belonged to her grandmother, a treasured keepsake from Earth. She plans to wear it when she finally visits the planet. As Norton assists her, Irma reminisces about her grandfather, who used to do the same for her grandmother. She speaks of how the people of Earth once dreamed of venturing into the unknown, believing they might find God among the stars. Curious, she asks Norton if he thinks they can reach God. Norton reflects, admitting that as a child he did. He remembers imagining new universes waiting to be explored, dreaming of uncovering hidden corners of existence. But now, with every part of space charted, he feels the sense of mystery has been lost. Irma gently disagrees, asserting that there will always be mystery within humanity itself. Their conversation is interrupted by Andrews announcing that they've entered the solar system and are nearing Earth. Irma asks RB-29 to step outside, saying she wants to speak to Norton alone. Once the android leaves, she confides in Norton that she's feeling nervous. She asks how she looks, and Norton assures her she looks beautiful. For a moment, he assumes she can't understand him because she isn't looking at her communication device. To his surprise, Irma reveals that she heard him perfectly, explaining that she hears some people more clearly than others. Smiling, she kisses him gently, calling him a true gentleman. Then, with a sparkle of excitement, she shows him something she's been holding. Irma retrieves a picture frame from her belongings, explaining that it contains a photo of her grandmother and grandfather. When she shows Norton the picture, he's stunned. Her grandfather, Bill, looks exactly like him. Irma reveals that she once had a dream about him and believes he might have dreamed of her too. Feeling unsettled, Norton excuses himself and heads to the computer room to call Barbara. During the call, Norton finally confesses that he never truly wanted to move to Primo Central. He admits he only pursued it because it was what Barbara wanted. With this honesty laid bare, he asks her if she genuinely wants to be with him or if she's only chasing the life she envisioned for them. Barbara avoids the question, but Norton presses further, asking if she's ever dreamed about him. When she doesn't answer, he concludes that she hasn't and admits he no longer dreams about her either. Hurt, Barbara accuses him of meeting someone else and demands that he come home. Before he can respond, the screen glitches and briefly shows the moment when Irma kissed him. As the connection restores, Norton silently ends the call, ignoring Barbara's protests. Later, Norton and Irma return to the lobby just as Andrews announces they're passing Mars. Irma, however, immediately points out a discrepancy, noting that Mars is supposed to be red, not green. Andrews brushes off her concerns, suggesting she's confused, but Irma insists that her memory is sharp and knows what Mars should look like. Frustrated, she asks Norton to make Andrews stop treating her like a fool. Before Norton can respond, Andrews speaks through the intercom, warning him not to reveal the truth. However, RB-29 steps forward and interjects. The android explains that 60 years ago, a massive electromagnetic event in the solar system caused severe radioactive damage to Saturn, Mars, and Venus, altering their appearances. The electromagnetic event had catastrophic effects on the solar system. Saturn lost its rings, Mars turned green, and Venus became yellow, gaining a single ring. Irma turns to Norton for confirmation, and with no other choice, he admits it's true, explaining that they hadn't told her earlier out of concern for how she might react. Spotting a yellow planet nearby, Irma assumes it's Venus and marvels at the sight. Norton, continuing the deception, adds that the same event also altered Earth's appearance. Not wanting to delve further, Irma closes her communication device and decides that as long as it's Earth, she'll feel the connection she's seeking. Eventually, Irma catches a glimpse of what she believes to be Earth. Overwhelmed with emotion, she asks to get closer. Andrews quietly warns Norton against it, but Irma, lost in the moment, takes Norton's hand, gazing at the planet where her grandmother was born. Despite its barren appearance, Irma remains hopeful, searching for her grandmother's hometown, which she believes must still hold its green and blue beauty. Panicking, Andrews scrambles at the console, looking for something to create the illusion Irma wants. Norton, on the other hand, gently tells her that they may not be able to see it. Irma refuses to believe him, insisting it's still there and urging Norton to close his eyes with her. At the last moment, Andrews activates a filter on the ship's window, transforming M43 into a vibrant, Earth-like blue. Delighted, Irma demands that they land the ship so she can step onto Earth, if only for a brief, sweet moment. Andrews protests, warning that it's not safe, but Norton promises her they'll land, determined to fulfill her dream. As the Dreamweaver 9 descends toward M43, the ship is rocked by turbulence. Andrews continues to argue, but Norton insists on proceeding. Locking in the landing process, the two men strap themselves into their seats while Irma keeps her eyes fixed on the planet she believes is Earth, her heart full of anticipation. As the ship lands, an explosion shakes it violently. The Dreamweaver 9 is severely damaged, but Norton rushes to check on Irma. Finding her unconscious, he fears the worst, until she stirs and opens her eyes. Irma gazes out the window, only to see that the vibrant color has faded to a dull hue. From the intercom, Norton learns that the ship's color mixer has failed, ending the illusion. RB-29 tries to reassure Irma, suggesting that they simply landed in the wrong spot and need to take off again to find the right location. However, Andrews, growing more anxious, insists that landing again is far too dangerous and reminds everyone that their tour is strictly for observation, not exploration. When RB-29 persists, demanding they take Irma where she wants to go, Andrews firmly warns that they'll have to leave soon if they want to return home safely. Turning to Norton, he announces they'll stay no more than an hour before departing. Despite Andrews' objections, Norton decides to push the boundaries. Retrieving spacesuits from a supply closet, he offers Irma the opportunity to walk on what she believes is Earth. Before stepping outside, Irma shows Norton an outfit identical to what Bill, her grandfather, wore in the photo, coincidentally matching the attire Norton has seen in his visions. Once dressed and equipped, Norton and Irma exit the ship, stepping onto the stormy, desolate planet as RB-29 watches silently. Andrews returns to the ship's lobby, where RB-29 calmly informs him that Irma is resting. Sensing something is off, Andrews confronts the android about knowing the truth. RB-29 cryptically replies that no one truly knows the truth. But to Irma, this place is Earth. Suddenly, Andrews winces from a sharp headache and notices the ship's temperature is climbing uncomfortably high. Realizing something is wrong with the climate control system, he demands to know where Norton is. Looking outside, he spots Norton holding Irma's hand as they explore the harsh terrain. Panicking, Andrews warns Norton over the intercom that the spacesuits are only running on auxiliary oxygen tanks and won't last long. When Norton ignores the warning, Andrews grows desperate and tries to tell Irma the truth. RB-29 quickly reminds him that Irma cannot hear him. Frustrated, Andrews orders the android to bring them back aboard immediately. In response, RB-29's eyes glow red as it reveals it knows they have been deceiving Irma all along. As Norton and Irma wander the alien terrain, he suddenly hears the faint sound of birds chirping. Over the intercom, Andrews frantically warns that their oxygen levels have dropped below 30%, urging them to return to the ship immediately. However, Norton and Irma are captivated by their surroundings, seemingly oblivious to the danger. Norton excitedly announces that they've stumbled upon a forest, but Andrews grows more desperate, insisting they turn back or risk being left behind. Irma then hears the sound of water flowing nearby, but Andrews, monitoring their oxygen levels, watches in alarm as they rapidly approach zero. Assuming the worst, he turns to RB-29, convinced the pair is dead. Meanwhile, Norton and Irma remain unharmed. As Norton looks around in awe, Irma quietly removes her helmet. When Norton turns to her, he's stunned to see that she's transformed, appearing much younger. A sudden flash of light envelops them, and Norton finds himself standing in a vibrant forest with a waterfall cascading behind him. Before he can comprehend what's happening, an image of Laura, Irma's grandmother, appears. She smiles warmly, inviting Norton to join her in the water. Glancing at his reflection, Norton sees that under his helmet, he now resembles Bill, Irma's grandfather. Slowly, he removes his suit and steps toward the water, passing the familiar bicycle he had seen in his visions. Together, Norton and Laura dive into the sparkling waters, surrounded by the serene beauty of the dreamlike world. In this ethereal place, free from the burdens of reality, they find a happiness no one can take away.